Well, and brokenness doesn't take a break. Like,
No.
it's not like it's like, oh, you're on spring break. Okay, cool. Or, oh, there's a health crisis in the world. We're taking a break. And a hiatus, it doesn't happen. It's still there. Anyways, we're going to move on to the fifth tip. And this one, specifically for us here at Pure Desire, this is essential, period, in recovery, regardless of what time is going on. But specifically in this time of quarantining, of social distancing, all that, our fifth thing is to not stop meeting as groups.
Yeah, and for those that aren't currently in a group because maybe they've graduated out or haven't gotten into one yet, we might augment it to even just say, don't avoid community.
Yep.
Because the danger for all of us is isolation, and in isolation we make unhealthy choices, and that's not a you or me thing, that's a humanity thing.
Right.
And I think the threat of all this virus is going to create situations where it's just easy and even convenient to isolate. And so we want to be thoughtful to say, how do I maintain community?
Yep.
And so if I'm in group, how do I maintain that group? And so the great thing, at least at the point of recording this, no one is outlawing a group of 6 or 7 people.
Yep.
You could meet at a coffee shop. You could meet at a home, maybe the church, or if there's a place you've been meeting that's closed, you might have to think about somewhere new to meet.
Yeah.
But I would say be flexible and communicate about that. Just because your normal meeting spot isn't there, is there somewhere else appropriate? And then if not, if there's nowhere to physically meet, this is where the internet could become a tremendous gift to us.
Yeah.
So whether your group chooses to use, Messenger video app, or you're all on FaceTime, or you use, Google Hangouts is free for anyone to use. You could use Skype if someone in your group has a Zoom account. I mean, the awesome thing is there are so many video platforms out there that I'm certain that someone in your group could send a link and share it, and everybody at the group time just clicks on. And you're having group. And one of the things we would say from Pure Desire, as we've worked now with a lot of online groups, it can be just as effective as the in-person group. I mean, it's great to be in the room with someone. It's great to kind of the vibe you get when you're all in that same space. But it still is a very significant encounter when I come to group with my work prepared, ready to share, and I listen to other people. It has the same impact in your life. And so don't use this as an excuse to just be like, well, everything's canceled, so I guess we should cancel group too. I would say don't go there. Find ways to maintain that community, and even if it looks different than it has, keeping those relationships, keeping that community will help you stay healthy during this time.
Well, and brokenness doesn't take a break. Like, it's not like it's like, oh, you're on spring break. Okay, cool. Or, oh, there's a health crisis in the world. We're taking a break. And a hiatus, it doesn't happen. It's still there. Oddly enough, I heard that if like my wife went to the pool just like a week ago, and they're like, well, chlorine kills like everything. So there's a healthy place. Like, go meet at a pool. But I think that with this, it's just really important that you understand that this is going to be a time where you feel like it's necessary or it's okay to take that break, and it's not. Especially if you are in group on the front end or in the midst of recovery. It's just so important that you continue to meet. And here's the thing too, like, revisit the group guidelines, really like reinforce all the things about the group that are important. Go back to the memo of understanding, go back to the covenant to contend, understand that this is something that you've committed to and you're pushing into. And like, I'll put the group guidelines episode and some of the other leading groups and group structure stuff of our podcast. We'll put them in the show notes. But I think it's really important, like, that you still start on time. You meet at the same time you do every single week. You end on time, and you're really reinforcing those things. Because I think even in this, we can allow really the structure or the guidelines of what we do to slip. Because it's like, well, we're not in person, so maybe our group could go 3 hours, or maybe so-and-so, Jim can share for 45 minutes. And it's like, no, Jim, you can't. We need, your name's Jim, I'm so sorry, but come on, Jim. I think that that's the kind of stuff that's still important, because I know we're getting a lot of people who are chatting in or sending emails in, calls in, and saying, hey, we're going to move to this online format. What do we do? Treat it the same exact way you do like an in-person group. That this is still something that's very important to maintain the guidelines, to maintain the structure.
Well, I think the tool you just mentioned there that I would want to go back to, that covenant to contend, because one of the great things about that tool is it's a very clear statement of here's what I can control. here's what I can't control, and here's what I can trust God with. And if we're ever at a time where we feel like there's a lot of things we can't control, and that makes us feel out of control, I think it's now. And so we need a reminder to say, in my recovery, in my relationships, in my life, here's what I can control. And I'm going to make sure to be responsible for those things before God and my family and friends, say, this is under my control. And, you know, there's a reason that we've, you know, jokingly somewhat, but in seriousness, called Christmas and Thanksgiving the season of relapse, because everybody's rhythm changes. There's extra time off. You're around people you're not normally around so much. Like, wow, that kind of sounds a lot like right now, you know, and you're not meeting with your group. And and our heart for, you know, you as a listener is we don't want this to become the Corona season of relapse, to go, well, I was at home a lot and I was on my couch and watching a lot of movies and got into stuff I shouldn't. And this could become a major, major hiccup. And I think the community in your life, the group you have, those relationships, that's something you can control. You can control your engagement. You can control whether or not you're making phone calls and checking in. You can control whether or not you make that effort to make it to group, even though it's maybe at a different place or something that's not the usual. Like, what can you control? And being responsible to do those things, because those little steps will create health. And I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I think there really is the opportunity here that we could look back on this very unique time. And I mean, frankly, it's something the world has never seen, where, at least in the modern era, where we're taking kind of a break from everything. We could look back and go, man, that was such an awesome time. Remember how we got to do all these things, and remember those special family moments, and remember our this and that. Or we could look back and go, man, what a black hole that was. And that's, none of us want that. And so we're kind of on the cusp of it. We're a few days in, and by the time the podcast goes up, a few more, but like, to say you are right now, as you listen, in a position to determine which direction it goes. That is not outside of your control. That no matter what happens in our world, this could become a wonderful season of opportunity or a black hole of bad choices. And the way you respond will make the difference. And the people you choose to communicate and respond with. So whatever you can do to engage in your community, in your group, go for it. Because I think you'll look back and go, man, that was a really good season.